So here's a story for you. A man goes from a life of just unimaginable wealth to becoming the face of global terrorism. In this explainer, we're going to unravel the incredibly complex journey of Osama bin Laden. We're going to figure out how a billionaire's son ended up the world's most wanted man.
And yeah, that's the central question, isn't it? How does that even happen? But to really understand this transformation, we're going to flip the script. We're not going to start at the beginning. We're going to start at the very end. So, our story begins where his ended. Picture this. It's the dead of night in a quiet, unsuspecting suburb in Pakistan. The final chapter of a nearly decade-long global manhunt is just about to unfold.
The date is May 2nd, 2011, and this seemingly ordinary compound suddenly becomes the absolute epicenter of a top-secret military operation. Now, the location, it defied all expectations. This wasn't some remote mountain hideout. It was a suburban villa, unbelievably close to Pakistan's most prestigious military academy.
The mission was codenamed Operation Neptune Spear, and it was just surgical. It was all done in complete secrecy without tipping off the Pakistani authorities, and the whole thing was over in a matter of hours. His identity was confirmed almost immediately, and then came the controversial decision to bury him at sea. The thinking was they couldn't risk his final resting place becoming a shrine for his followers. So this single raid brought an end to one of the biggest, most expensive manhunts in modern history. But it really begs the question, what led to this moment? How did he get in their sights in the first place? To understand the manhunt, you have to understand the man. So let's take a look at the attacks that made him a global pariah and really cemented his reputation as this architect of terror. Nearly 3,000 innocent lives just gone in a single morning. We all know the date, September 11th, 2001. Bin Laden wasn't just some fringe player here. He was the mastermind behind this horrific, coordinated attack. It was an act of mass murder that completely reshaped the world and launched the so-called War on Terror. But 9/11 didn't just happen out of nowhere. It was actually the terrifying peak in a whole series of attacks orchestrated by his organization, Al-Qaeda. Think about it. The 1998 embassy bombings in Africa had already landed him on the FBI's most wanted list. So it was crystal clear he was a growing serious threat long before the towers ever fell. And this just brings us right back to our central question. How does a guy born into this world of incredible wealth and privilege become the face of violent extremism? To find that answer, well, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. You see, his story doesn't start in the dusty, war-torn mountains of Afghanistan. No, it starts in the opulent world of Saudi Arabia, a world of luxury, of power, and just immense wealth. So he was born into the super powerful bin Laden family, and he was raised in this very strict conservative form of Islam known as Wahhabism. His father was a construction tycoon, and Osama was set to inherit a fortune. On the surface, his life looked pretty set, a future in business, a world away from the kind of violence that would later define him. The contrast is just staggering. It's like looking at two completely different people. On one hand, you have a young man who studied business, who wrote poetry, and was even a fan of English football. How does that person become a battle-hardened militant, the founder of a global terror network? It was an absolute total transformation, a complete reinvention of a life. Okay, so here are the key turning points. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. That was the spark. He saw it as a foreign power invading Muslim lands, and he went from just being a financier to an actual fighter on the ground. Then came the Gulf War. For him, the presence of U.S. troops on Saudi soil, the land of Islam's holiest sites, that was the ultimate betrayal. This moment solidified his anti-American rage and led directly to him being kicked out of his home country and eventually to his fateful declaration of a global war. And so after 9/11, the man who had declared war on the West officially became its public enemy number one. The long hunt for Osama bin Laden had begun.
For nearly a decade, he was like a phantom, taunting the world with these audio and video messages that would pop up from who knows where. The search was this monumental intelligence effort, a high-stakes game of cat and mouse that ultimately relied on piecing together countless tiny fragments of data, using advanced software to finally pinpoint his location. His death was a major blow, no question, a huge symbolic victory in the war on terror. But it wasn't the end of al-Qaeda. Ayman al-Zawahiri took the helm, and bin Laden's own son, Hamza, even tried to carry the torch before he too was killed. The man was gone, but his legacy, this potent and very dangerous symbol,
Well, it continues to inspire extremist groups to this day.
This quote from bin Laden himself is chilling. It really reveals the stark, uncompromising worldview that fueled his entire war. It's like a window into an ideological chasm that seems almost impossible to cross. And it leaves us with a really unsettling question. In a world with such profound and absolute divides, is understanding even possible?